What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be exploring AWS S3. S3 is Amazon's simple storage service, and this allows you to store objects in the cloud at a very minimal cost. The objects that you store using S3 are stored in what are called buckets. And you can think of a bucket as just like a folder on your Windows system. So let's go ahead and jump right in. So I'm logged into the console here, as you can see. And basically, I just want to navigate to S3. Obviously, there's a couple ways to be able to get to it. So I can just go to search here, and it pops up. Let's try that again. There we go. Okay. So, like I said, we have this idea of what we call buckets, and you can store basically any static content in a bucket. So you can host a website in a bucket, a static website, anything that requires a database connection or anything of that nature, or that's dynamic. You can't use S3 for that, but if you're just storing images and video, let's say you want to use this as a backup for like or replacement for Google Drive or something like that, this would be optimal for that. And it's relatively inexpensive. So before I go too far, I just want to cover a couple things to note. Uh, so S3 is object-based storage. It's scalable and it's very simple. Let's see here. Make sure I don't miss anything. And like I said, it manages objects. So one thing to keep in mind about S3 is that it's a global service. If you look here, if you look up here, you'll see that it says global and it doesn't have a region. So this is going to be in the same vein as the IAM or Identity and Access Management Service. It's a global service, so it's shared across the entire AWS ecosystem. Um, so the naming, we'll get to that a little bit later, but so you don't determine a region for your S3. It's automatically shared across multiple regions by default. Okay. So like I said, the objects that you upload to S3 are stored in what are called buckets. So let's go ahead and create our first bucket. So I'm just going here to create bucket. Okay. And you'll see one thing that's important here is the naming conventions for the buckets. So you can pop that out and see the rules here. So bucket names must be between 3 and 63 characters. I'll let you read this for yourself, but there is a link to help you kind of decide what you want to name your bucket and the uniqueness of the name across the entire ecosystem. So if I were to type in test bucket, for instance, I'm pretty sure this name is already taken, but we'll just try it out. So that's really the first thing you need to configure. And then you can obviously select which region you want to put it in. It's going to leave the default there. ACLs disabled or enabled. I'll come back and do a follow-up video about that. And then by default, we want to block all public access to our bucket. And then, like I said, this will be in a subsequent video. You can have versioning for your bucket. So versioning comes into play if you want to have multiple objects in the bucket with the same name. So if I had an index.html file or error.html file, I may change some of the content within the file, but the file name is the same. So I may want to keep up with the different versions of that, and by enabling this option here, this allows us to do that. Obviously, I can turn the tag on, just for being able to help organize, and then encryption. So let's go down here and advanced settings. So um, nothing really, nothing else we really need to add here. So I'm gonna go ahead and do create bucket, and I'm pretty sure we're not going to be able to use this bucket name, but let's just check it out. So create bucket, and of course that bucket name is already taken. So let's do test bucket KP 2023. Okay, let's try that one. Create bucket. That name is not taken. Okay, so we just created our first bucket, which is this guy. Test bucket KP 2023 tells me what time it was created, and it gives me my region as well as what my access level is. So I'm going to use this bucket to continue to grow on with this video series here. But just note that as of now, this bucket is not public. And sometimes you hear things like data breaches at these major corporations, which is usually, I'm not going to say that it doesn't happen, but most of the time it's a misconfiguration on something along the lines of the infrastructure. So a data breach in this particular instance could be if I made this bucket public by accident. Maybe I wasn't paying attention to one of my scripts that I have to build the infrastructure or something like that, and I may have exposed some personally identifiable data about somebody if I have that in my system. So I always want to keep that in mind. But like I said, just a quick review. We just came in and created a quick bucket in S3. Very simple, and we'll have some follow-up videos to get into more features about working with S3 on AWS. At any rate, thank you for watching.